Has arrived. I would ask our clerk to please take roll call.
Counselors, Biedenbender, Crocker James,
Here.
Cullum. Here. Dagwan, Flores,
Here.
Rapp Grassetti,
Present.
Hebert,
Present.
Levesque,
Here.
Neary, Schnepp,
Here.
Steinhilber,
Here.
Tinsley, Wallace.
Yeah, here.
We have 9.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please record that Councilors Biedenbender, Neary, and Tinsley also spoke to me before the meeting to let me know they're having difficulty making it tonight. Under announcements, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is recording this meeting, and if so, please make your presence known to me at this time. Seeing none, I would ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. We are at the public comment portion of the meeting, and I would ask that everybody comes forward and please respects our signs. It's a 3-minute time frame. You will get a 15-second notice before we go into the please conclude method. So anybody willing to come forward, sign up, and please speak their piece.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yes, I'm here again about the food and beer trucks on the Village Green and Main Street, Hyannis. I received a letter from Cape Cod Beer saying that we hear you loud and clear and effective immediately. Cape Cod Beer will no longer accept invitations to provide beer service in conjunction with the Village Green. I would like to get a letter of some sort also from the town saying that the town is no longer going to allow permits for food and beverage on the Village Green. In her letter, she says that we've been hearing from 90% of our customers, and it had been confirmed by our commercial banking team, that it has been a slow summer for most businesses on Main Street. I don't know how it affects the rest of the Cape, but we did have quite a slow May, June, even parts of July. It was better in August. I actually ended up closing Monday 2 weeks earlier than I normally would because there was no sense being open because you don't make enough money to make the payroll. So this is the list that I forgot to give you last time I was here of all the restaurants from the West End to the dock side, from North Street to the waterfront. And there are, I've numbered them, there are 74 food service permits. And there's a total of 232 food service permits throughout the town of Barnstable. So we have a very high number in this mile radius here of 74 food establishments. That includes any place you can buy food, you know, the convenience stores or whatever. But I have not heard a word from anybody at Town Hall. I'm going through the same procedure I normally do, being totally ignored. Nobody will talk to you. I come here because I know the public can see what's going on, and I'd like to get a response from somebody here about how you feel about this or what's going to happen, something. so that I could put this thing to rest. I've been doing this now for over a year. This started a year ago with a phone call from the town manager to the licensing department saying you can give out food and liquor permits on the Village Green. This never existed 2 years ago. This only started a year ago. So it's something new, and I've been complaining about it now for over a year. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, please sign in. Keep your...
Hello.
You're familiar with our timing process?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Adam Hansen, Precinct 3. My friends over on Spice Lane, thank you for the culvert. They appreciate the town's effort with that issue. Another issue, red light violations. I witness daily red light violations throughout Hyannis. I had to go from Hyannis to Katuitt to pick up some oysters a couple months ago on Route 28, and I witnessed 5 violations. I talked to a nice sergeant at the police department. He was saying red light cameras are illegal in Mass. I would ask the town to petition the state to maybe change the law. It's been a year since Charlie Lewis was hit by a car on Wagon Lane. People speed down our dead-end street every day. Every day, I live at 38 Wagon Lane, and I see people speeding down the street every day, and it's getting to the point where it's very annoying. And I would like the town to maybe look into the issue, please. Also, I understand speed bumps are an issue with the plows, but maybe speed tables or more signage. But all right, end the summer season. From our last speaker, an okay season. Loss of revenue, bad for business. We need something year-round. This goes into my next thing, the cannabis industry. The town should set up a cannabis industry committee to look at and research how we can bring the industry to Barnstable. Year-round jobs, better for the town. We'll get revenue. The schools will get increased funding. The police department can get increased funding. And I just heard Boston Beer wants to get into the cannabis industry. The people that make Sam Adams. We have all these breweries on the Cape. Maybe they could get into it there. Who knows? But I think Councilor Levesque, we're going to make some good headway at coffee, at Nirvana. So all good things. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? How are you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tyler Little. I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife, Erica. We recently have been, well, I shouldn't say recently, we've been having a headbutting contest with the bus director. We've been having a real big issue in our neighborhood. We live in Marston's Mills, and we own a home there off of Biscayne Drive. And the bus director isn't really giving us the answer that we want, and we've exhausted almost all means necessary to get this to change. Including going to the superintendent's office, speaking to her assistant as well as the assistant superintendent, and they are getting the same answer. This has been going on for 2 years. We put in a request after Sandy Gifford, the director, told us to, and then a year later when we noticed that the stop has not changed because of property damage is happening, people are littering and driving on our lawn, and we don't have kids. She said she had no intentions of changing it in the first place. So it wasn't a pleasant conversation with her. I felt she was being extremely disrespectful. And then this year, we've tried to do everything we can to get some sort of answer. And we're hoping that the town can maybe look into it a little bit further. I have been a resident of Barnstable my whole life. And I deployed to the Middle East on Monday, and I'm hoping that I don't have to leave this burden on her while she works full time. So we haven't gotten an answer that we really like. So I'm hoping that someone will be able to look into the matter a little bit further. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. Be safe over there too, please, for us. Please sign in. Yes, how are you, Bo?
Hi, good. Good morning. Or evening. Hi. I know you. Okay, and there's Paula. So, my name is Bo Chu, and I am listed in her special directory as 1 Main Street, which is, I found is code for homeless. Right? Wrong.
This isn't a question and answer.
Okay.
No, please, just.
Yeah, okay,
Feel
so
free to tell.
I'm gonna sing a song, because Phil asked me if I could play the guitar once, and I didn't bring my guitar, but I can sing. This is from my mother, whose name is Grace Chu. So this is, and I got this from the Barnstable Adult Community Center, where I'm taking piano lessons, okay? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come forward? Seeing none, I'd close the public comment portion of the evening, and I would ask council's response to public comment. Councilors to my left.
Just wanted to thank everybody for a public comment. Ms. Carey, I appreciate what you have to say. Obviously, I am fully supportive of all businesses on Main Street, want to see them succeed in no way, shape, or form. I think the intent to have these different festivals and different things isn't to take away those businesses, but bring more people to Main Street. And I know I will have conversations in regards to making sure that it's in, I will say a lot of those businesses that do go to these festivals and village days, whatever they might be, they are businesses on Main Street. There are some of them there, but I also know, your view of it being somewhat exclusive. So again, I think those discussions are healthy to have. And again, the intent I don't think is there to ruin anybody's business. But at the same time, if there's a discussion needs to be had, we'll make sure it gets done. Also, Adam, looking forward to that cup of coffee. I know we've been talking about it for a couple of months, and I appreciate your patience on that. And Mr. Little, appreciate your service to our country. And I'm not quite clear on exactly what the problem was, other than maybe there's a bus stop in front of your house. That's what I'm assuming. I got up to come talk to you, but I saw Manager Ells gave you his card. So I think that you'll find some resolution, hopefully, in that real soon. And that's it. So I appreciate that. Mr. Chu, that was a great rendition of one of my favorite songs. So I appreciate you sharing the arts with us this evening. That's all I have. Thank you.
Council Collum?
Yes, I wanted to specifically speak to Adam Hansen's point about the speeding. I've been to so many community meetings lately where that is the major thing, with on Old Colony, on Ocean Street, on C Street, even when it's now that it's more narrow, but at night, with motorcycles screaming in and out, and using Calmus as a destination spot and ripping back down Ocean Street the other way. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be wise to get some radar guns out there. Hopefully you don't get me, but I just think it might be time to send the message that Barnstable's not for speeding, even if it's a straight away, because I think it's really affecting the quality of life, especially for the folks on Ocean. Thank you.
To my sides. Councilor Rapp Grissetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Tina, with respect to the Village Green, I guess I do sympathize with you, but then you talk about the Federated Church that holds its lobster roll luncheons every Friday, which are one of the ways that the church makes money. I haven't heard you mention that. That's in competition with the restaurants that serve lobster rolls, and the symphony that has food trucks that brings in, thousands of people. I don't know. I have a problem with limiting who goes there. I think, to me, it's free enterprise. And with regard to everybody's business this year, I think the strength of the dollar in Europe has forced, or not forced, but prompted a lot of people to go to Europe instead of Cape Cod for the summer. So I think that's where everybody's feeling the sting. With regard to Adam Hansen's comment, it's funny you should say that, because after the number one complaint of road conditions and litter, it's speeding. And I just recently this week received a petition from nearly 100 residents in my village where there's no sidewalk on a road that goes down to the beach, Ocean View Avenue. And they're asking for speed bumps. I don't think speed bumps are the answer. If we start putting speed bumps on every road, we'll start getting complaints about speed bumps. We can install more radar signs. Those seem to be somewhat effective. But I think perhaps it's time for us to petition the state legislatures and get our representatives to adopt the laws allowing speed and red light cameras. I think it's about time. So, and I know it's done in Europe, and it generates a lot of money that could be used to improve our streets. Not that I like Big Brother watching us, but the police force has their hands full, and they can only police so much and put the radar guns out so much. So I think it might be time. Mr. Little, I think you'll probably seek some satisfaction. I see the superintendent here tonight. Perhaps you can have a direct conversation with her. And Mr. Chu, good pitch.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councilor, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would also like to echo that, Mr. Little, if you have any issues that haven't been resolved after both being able to talk to the town manager and the superintendent, let me know. I am your counselor in Precinct 12. My number is on the website, and good luck with that. And again, I'd like to echo the concerns about the speeding. Another call that I received last week had to do with a pickup spot for the school bus that was on an intersection that is of concern. And a lot of that concern is the speeding that goes on, and some of the sight lines. I think, we have very lovely roads in this community, but they also make it difficult to sometimes be the best drivers. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Councilor Snepp. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's amazing, we're supposed to be a place where people are on vacation and trying to relax, and we don't have a whole lot of mindful driving going on in the community. And so hopefully we as a culture can start to slow down and realize that getting there first is not always what we're supposed to be doing. Ms. Carey, I've made it a point to walk down Main Street more recently. And it helps when you don't have a vehicle. So in any event, I did want to point out that just today, in walking by your facility, I looked around, and there's a couple of other little restaurants, and I said, there's so many restaurants, it must be very difficult. And I had been in the food business for a number of years, and it was always trying to meet payroll. It was always trying to pay the bills, and it was difficult, and I don't miss being in food service anymore. But so I understand your concerns, but there are a lot of restaurants, and restaurants come and they go. I did want to point out that in the summer, I was really taken up with your signage that said, if you want a day out with the girls, you want to just have a good time, you want to go shopping, if you leave your husband here, like a daycare for husbands, you'd take good care of them and they could pick them up later. I thought that was very, very clever, great marketing. So I do sympathize with you on all of that. And I think everybody else has covered everything, including Mr. Bo. You did a great job. Thanks.
Any other councilors? Hearing none, I will advance to our activity today. We have a presentation from the Barnstable Economic Task Force overview. We are fortunate to have our Director of Planning and Development, the staff liaison, Elizabeth Jenkins, with us. And I believe we have 3 members of the committee. It would be the chair, Ali Malone, Chuck Carey, and Matt Eddy. So please come up. Welcome. Thank you for your work. Thank you for the committee work.
Good evening, councilors.
Director Jenkins.
Good evening. Thank you, President Crocker, for having us. Again, it's been a pleasure to work with this committee over the past several months, and I will certainly turn it over to them at this point for a discussion of our objectives, what we were tasked to, and the recommendations that have come out of that group. So I will turn it over to Chuck Carey.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Chuck Carey. I have a real estate business on Main Street, Hyannis.
You want to get the mic up a little, Chuck?
Excuse me?
Mic up to your face. There you go. Thank
Okay.
you.
How's that?
Excellent.
Chuck Carey. I have a business on Main Street, and I've been given the privilege of introducing this ad hoc task force, which is designed to remove some of the barriers to business development, business growth, business expansion. It's our viewpoint right now that there are some obstacles. There's a change in the business climate. Bylaws which were created perhaps some time ago might be out of context, might need some adjustment. If you would please picture a triangle with housing, jobs, and business all connected. If one suffers, the other two do too. And that's what's happening with business right now. And when you think about it, those 3 things are probably the most talked about topics on Cape Cod, maybe except for sharks. We have a beginning set of recommendations that are going to be on your agenda tonight. And for the detail on that, I'm going to turn it over to our chair, Ali Maloney.
Good evening. I'd just like, again, to take a moment to recognize, again, that the charge of the task force, which, as Chuck amply pointed out, was to, really look, to reach across sectors and look at different strategies to improve our business climate. We had a terrific participation. I really do want to thank everybody who served on this committee, especially Ali as our chair and our fearless leader, bringing everyone together. It was designed to be a multidisciplinary committee with individuals really across all sectors representing our business community. And through this, and I could let Ally talk a little bit about the approach and how
Sure.
we got to these recommendations.
Sure. In our approach, we brought in guest speakers. We brought in attorneys, investors, developers, restaurateurs, different people to talk to us about what had stood in their way of business growth, opening businesses, constructing new properties for businesses, leasing to businesses. We also sent out questionnaires. We all went into our Rolodex, if you will, and sent out questionnaires to everyone, asking them to just honestly tell us what's been working well, what are the changes that have been made that have worked for you, and what do you think could still be bettered. And we received some really interesting insight from people in all different sectors in the town. And then we all talked about our experiences that we had through our own businesses and our own lives working in this town and trying to grow businesses and help others. The things we looked at included regulatory reform, which Chuck just touched on. Chuck and I are in the same business, but many of us are in different businesses, and Matt here obviously has had a lot of experience with the rules and regs in the town, and so we've spent a lot of time talking about regulatory reform. Customer service, really thinking about how the government of Barnstable, the employees of Barnstable, the directors, and everyone who falls under them, how they interact with the public. Communication, internal and external, between within the town and to the public. Fees and development costs. We spent a lot of time talking about fees and development costs because, the ability to develop in the town is somewhat related to the fees and development costs. Housing, housing is important. Retail follows residential. So if we don't have residential with people who have the ability to spend some money on shopping and dining and living, that's difficult. Water access, we'll touch on that a little bit later, but we live in a beautiful place where we have harbors and boats, and we'd like to be able to have more people visit by boat and spend some time here. Economic development collaborations, we talked quite a bit about that, of how we can better promote the town and work with other agencies and people.
I think you're going to be seeing on some of the slides coming up some of the items that we are discussing, just in some general categories. But the first couple here are what we're kind of identifying as the initial priority recommendations that we're bringing forth. We believe this first one, which is addressing some minor zoning amendments, we think these are fairly simple, I'll kind of say low-lying fruit. That based on discussion within our group and the business owners within our group and the guests that we've had come and speak before us, some of these quick zoning items, amendments, which I believe you're going to get a first read on tonight, we believe would help businesses just, handle very simple business operations a little bit more efficiently, help them in timely aspects and cost aspects. And those, the three items that are going to be for a first read tonight, one is temporary uses, falls under the temporary uses in the zoning ordinance. This is for tents. The modification of that is simply removing the seasonal restriction. There's currently a seasonal restriction on when a business can put up a tent. They have to still get a permit for that tent, but there was really no clear reasoning or understanding why there was a seasonal restriction, and it did make it difficult for some businesses at certain times. So that was, again, a simple modification for that certain zoning section. The second zoning section is signs within the HVB district, the Hyannis Village Business District. Kind of speaks a little bit to some of the comments we heard earlier during the public comment. This one, again, is a very simple, we believe. It was just removing from the sign zoning ordinance, there was a section that's identified as location hardship sign that's going to be, is being proposed to be struck, and that will become a A-frame type sign, which is kind of the sandwich board signs. Just trying to make that so that it's a by right. Currently, I believe the zoning ordinance reads that you actually have to go to planning board for a special permit for something like that. So you can imagine the time and cost that a business would have to incur for something very simple like that. So that would allow that by right, but still have parameters for that, the type of A-frame sign, size, what it can look like. And I believe, maybe Elizabeth can expound if I'm misstating, but I believe that we also are hopefully going to work with Main Street Historic to identify some guidelines for those types of signs so that, again, that can be just a by right approval so that a business doesn't necessarily have to go before a historic, again, just for that simple sign. So just trying to make it a little bit easier, a little bit streamlined. And then finally, the third amendment is just on lighting, just in general lighting intensities. There's some, I don't want to say ambiguity, but for commercial sites, lighting, amount of light on a site, there's several reference places where it talks about you can't have any light at a property line, so 0-foot candles, just from a practical standpoint, from kind of an engineering standpoint, which is what I do. That's very difficult, if not almost impossible to achieve if you actually go out with a light meter to have 0. So just some very minor modifications. Talks about allowing a half-a-foot candle, which is very low light levels, at a driveway entrance, which you want for safety, or down to 0.05-foot candles at a property line, which is extremely low levels of light. But again, just a very simple modification to just help with the businesses when they're going through a review process and to be able to come up with ways to meet the regulations appropriately. So those are the items that will be, again, for the first read on those zoning amendments.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. If I may jump in, councilors, those are under new business, Articles 19, 20, and 21. Thank you.
The next article that we're putting forward for action is to establish a permit coordinator position. And I own a commercial real estate company. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of individuals who are either looking to open a new business, they're relocating a business from another town, or they're opening a second or third or fourth business. In the process of doing this, I always ask them to go down to town hall and start the process to obtain their permits and approvals. If someone has done this many times and they're very experienced, they can often get through this process with relative ease. For others, this can be very intimidating and overwhelming. Very often these are tenants, or it's their first time buying a commercial property. They have minimal knowledge of what will be required for their space to meet building, health and fire codes, architectural access codes, zoning codes for their proposed use. The front counter employees do their best, and they provide the applicants with the required forms and explain what they need to do. Some of these individuals, English is not their first language. Others have very complicated permitting situations, and they have no idea what they're stepping into. The process can seem all but impossible. They end up coming back to me saying that they've gone around and around from one department for another, back and forth, and they still can't seem to get anything resolved. It often seems that those who get it done are handheld, walked through by either an attorney, a real estate broker, or some other professional who's experienced. And I'll say that Brian Florence's willingness to offer informal site plan review meetings has been phenomenal. It really provides an applicant with a one-time overview of what the process will be and who they're going to need to talk to, what it will look like. But this isn't appropriate in every situation. We are proposing that the town of Barnstable authorize funds to hire an individual who will be a full-time permitting coordinator to be a trained point of contact at 200 Main Street. This person would be there to advocate for projects internally as they move through the regulatory process. The permit coordinator would assist in providing applicants with an overview of the full scope of permit requirements, costs, and timeframes. If the process is stalled due to a lapse in communication between departments, this individual would intervene to fill that gap. We think if possible, it would be very important and helpful to find someone who knows the people, who knows the players, who knows how the town works, but obviously that's not for us to say. The hiring of a permit coordinator would be a big step towards generally fostering an attitude that the government wants new businesses to open and succeed in the town of Barnstable. Thank you. We have a lot of other areas that we are talking about regularly. We are researching, collaborating. We're not ready to come before you to ask for any action on these topics, but we thought that we would simply go through them briefly. One of them, and we've already spoken with both the town manager and the building commissioner about this, is just a goal of making all property records available online for public viewing. Yarmouth does this, and it's fabulous. We're not there yet, and I think everyone's working towards it. To review and modernize regulations that are redundant and difficult to navigate or don't reflect our current business practices or technologies. Elizabeth always reminds us it's not easy to change zoning, but we do keep working on it. And I know that in the future we'll be coming before you to talk about some of the groundwater and wellhead protection regulations. Housing. Oh, is that what's next? Yes. Yes, housing. We had Rick Penn in one time to talk to us, his family owns Puritan Clothing, and his expression was, retail follows residential. And if you have the residential living nearby, near the retail, they will shop, they will spend money. So we would love to, we are continuing to talk about more residential growth in the growth incentive zone. We're looking at inclusionary affordable housing requirements and how those might be adjusted, and possibly expanding the commercial uses in the JIS. Hyannis Water Department fees. Yeah, we have some people on our board who have a lot of experience with development and Hyannis Water Department fees, and I guess one of the issues is a perceived lack of transparency, and hopefully we'll be coming before you at some point when we're ready to talk more about that. As I mentioned before, we live on a island or a peninsula, however you want to look at it, and we have a beautiful harbor. Many of us would love to see the ability to have people come and bring their boat and stay for the day and shop. So we will be coming back to you at some point just to talk about possible changes, and I know that there's been a lot of work in this area already, and I think there's going to be a presentation later. So we will continue to work through our interconnected and individual efforts to help come up with some changes to help promote growth, positive changes in growth in the town of Barnstable, and continue to make this a great place to live and have a business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you also state the members of your committee?
Sure.
The easy ones. So the public knows who's working on some of these issues with you.
So my name is Allison Maloney. I'm the chair, and I'm the owner of AMG Realty. Matthew Eddy, to my left, is an engineer with Baxter & Nye Engineering and Surveying. He's our vice chair. Chuck Carey here is the owner of Carey Commercial. Terry Ahern is with Cape Cod Healthcare. Roy Catagnani is with Conserve Group. Jason Sisko is the owner of Riverway Restaurants. Robert Cody is the iterate with Hyannis Area Chamber of Commerce. Beth Marcus is owner of Cape Cod Beer. Dan Ojala is owner of Down Cape Engineering and Surveying. And Mark Sexton is with Cape Cod 5 Cent Savings Bank.
Thank you very much, and please thank everyone for the effort.
Thank you.
I've been to several meetings. You really are turning the tough questions over and trying to get answers for us. Councilors, do we have any questions of our panel? Yes, Councilor Levesque.
If you want to go first, you can. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to say thank you for your time. And, I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals, seen Matt give a couple of presentations, always very informative. And, I guess I can't say enough about the expertise and the names that are on this the list here. And again, I appreciate your time and effort. And, being on the zoning board and having a passion for zoning in the town, I would definitely support and look forward to listening to more recommendations you have coming down the pike. Thank you.
Councilor Cullen.
Hi. Thanks for donating your time. One of the good things that's come out of this concept of ad hoc committees is that you get expertise from a lot of different people that can comment and affect change in ways that they may not otherwise. So it's really great to have an inclusive group from different disciplines looking at these things that we look at constantly and can't seem to turn over. I wanted to say a couple of things. I remember there was an economic development position in Mike Travato, right, that went through planning. That was, as far as I understand, supposed to be the ombudsman liaison for opening new businesses. Is that the same funding source we're looking at? Are we transferring it from planning to 200 Main?
So we've had some fairly dramatic changes in our economic development staff lately. We have brought on a new planning and economic development coordinator. Again, really to be an individual who sort of works at the intersection of planning and economic development, which is really I think where the field is going. So we've hopefully you've all had the opportunity to meet Gloria McPherson. She's been a tremendous addition to our team. Mike Travato actually recently left employment with the town of Barnstable. So his position was a sort of a business outreach specialist. So really, as we see as an important companion to the permit coordinator position. He's sort of the external face of Barnstable for, particularly small businesses related to sort of outreach and marketing, getting businesses interested in Barnstable and why they should be here. The permit coordinator, and again, why it's a supplemental appropriation, is a sort of enhancement of our existing site plan review coordinator position, which is currently part-time and not really able to provide that sort of full-time one-stop shopping at 200 Main Street. So that's a currently funded part-time position in the town that again would sort of work hand in hand with our full-time economic development staff. Again, sort of as being the external versus the internal face of economic development here in Barnstable.
So this position isn't a new position that we're funding. We're not getting rid of the part-time coordinator, and it's not a hybrid position from Mike Travato's old position it's a new position at 200 Main. I just want to be clear.
So it is an enhancement of the site plan review coordinator position. So it's there are not two positions there. We would be taking that position and repurposing it into a permit coordinator. Really, planning and development and inspectional services, Brian Florence, have worked hand in hand to make site plan review that vehicle that new businesses can go through to help understand all these permit requirements and pull those together. So we thought it made a lot of sense, sort of responding to the recommendations of this committee. We had a vacancy in that position currently. We happen to have a vacancy in that position currently as well. So again, with the supplemental appropriation, really being able to expand the capacity of that position into a vision that matched this committee's.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And then I wanted to mention that, over the past 4 years or so, I've had so many discussions with Wayne Kirker about Hyannis Harbor becoming a port of entry, and how important that would be for the economy on Main Street and really bump Hyannis to the next level. And I think it's interesting that you guys have that as one of your future priorities. Maybe you should get Wayne on the horn if you haven't already and talk to him about his efforts, because he's gone he's gone a ways with it, and it might be interesting to talk to him.
Great idea, thanks.
Thank you. Councilors? Council Snep?
Thank you again for your presentation tonight, and again for your commitment to this effort. One of the things that popped up was the notion of trying to have better property information available. And I was just wondering what kind of aspects we would like to add and enhance from what we already capture.
Want me to answer that? Go. In the town of Yarmouth, for example, if a business owner, an attorney, a town councilor, a homeowner, anyone wants to learn about a property, what's the history of the property, what's happened there before, they can, from their desk, go online, and with a few clicks, they can find the address, and they can see every permit that's ever been granted for the property, copies of plans, copies of violations, special permits, variances, etc. That's what I mean.
Because right now we just have our GIS that gives property history, recent transactions, but you're looking at something that talks about the use of that property and all the different actions that have gone before the town.
Yes.
So we have a lot of data integrated into our assessor's database, and certainly, we've been working towards digitizing a lot of our records with the new e-permitting software that's out there. Will sort of allow this for everything that happens going forward, but there's certainly a whole history of records that we keep in our regulatory services building, going backwards.
I think they've been scanning things now. Anything that's new, they now scan, and it's not yet available to the public, but there's already a big effort to have this done.
Great. So I'd like to ask one more question, more of a big picture question, and it might actually be more directed to Elizabeth. Do we have, as a town, sort of economic goals in terms of increasing the business footprint? Or I know that we look for new growth dollars, but in terms of business activity, how are we approaching this, and what are the goals that the economic development positions are trying to meet?
Sure. I mean, I think we really, I certainly look to our town council strategic plan for guidance. I mean, economic development is one of the core strategic actions in that plan. So we really try to look for that as we set priorities. And I think certainly the idea of, enhancing the appearance of Barnstable, looking at blighted and underutilized properties and ways that we can help enable development of those, sort of more coordinated marketing and outreach, I think is really something that's going to become a focus. We have done sort of a lot of work, I think, to what we call set the table for businesses to be welcome here in the town of Barnstable, whether it's this sort of on-the-ground customer service-based work or reform of our development regulations, the work that we've done, with the commission under Chapter H or the growth incentive zone. So really sort of making sure that that's pulled together and marketed to developers, I really see being a big push going forward. And then certainly all the work we do with sort of looking to diversify our business mix, whether it's arts and culture or the blue economy, developing out those sectors, I think is a sort of a big focus of us going forward. And then, what was my last item? Again, housing. Thank you. Housing is the big one I'm missing. Really not a sort of traditional economic development issue, but as Chuck says here in Barnstable, is a key piece of being able to support a year-round workforce here. So lifting regulatory barriers to housing. You heard the presentation from us last time. Sort of all the work that we do. So so our economic development staff is a big piece of that, and then certainly. Again, the idea that that economic development traditionally was about providing tax incentives. That's really not the way the field is going today. It's about creating a community with an exceptionally high quality of life, where someone, whether you're working remotely or looking to locate a small company or open a small business, so making sure that again we're making those enhancements to our community, whether it's whether it's streetscape, whether it's all of those sort of things that come together to make Barnstable a great place to live, a number of which this group touched on. Really, it's sort of our broad strategic focus.
Well, I agree with the housing issue. To me, there's some other infrastructure issues that I think would be enhance economic development. That would be our transportation corridors and then also our access to IT resources. And I didn't know if those were also in consideration in your discussions.
Yeah, I think sort of infrastructure goes hand in hand with economic development. It's really, again, one of those things our community can do to set the table for developers. That was the entire basis of that, of the growth incentive zone, was the idea that we really wanted to enable new growth and investment in downtown Hyannis, where we have that full suite of resources, but certainly looking at our transportation infrastructure and our assets, our municipal airport, the fact that we host the ferry terminals, and the regional transit authority is a tremendous benefit for the town of Barnstable. So whether it's that sort of, again, multimodal focus or ways that we can again expand and enhance our roadway capacity, I think the work that we've been doing with DPW to look at that Yarmouth Road corridor is I would consider as much an economic development initiative as I would a transportation initiative. So certainly, again, infrastructure, whether it's through the grant writing we do with MassWorks, or again these sort of looking at how roadways get designed to encourage again a high quality of life in our community is important.
Councilor Rapkrissetti.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I was able to attend one of your meetings, and I have reviewed your minutes, so I kind of know what's going on. I'm not going to get into too much the item 2020-024, the coordinator. I have a lot of questions about that position and why. I guess one that really jumps out at me is, why is the part-time position vacant now, and how much is that person really going to do, and what are they going to do when there isn't a business looking for that? And that's a big ask. I know you're asking right now for $15,000, but it turns into a full-time position of close to $75,000. And so I have questions about that, but that's at our next meeting. With regards to the question about the assessors, putting more on the assessor's map or online, I'd like to just first off, and I've been pushing for this, trying to get a delineation so that every property has, whether or not you're sitting on a private road or a public road, that's information that it gets asked of us all the time. And that hasn't even been accomplished. So I hope you're successful in getting more information up. Right now, just for the public, anybody can go to 200 Main Street and look up a property, and if it's on conservation, they can look through the file at conservation, historic, whatever, and get information on the properties. So I look forward to seeing what you bring forward, and the first few items, as you said, low hanging fruit, I'm very supportive of, so thank you.
Any other questions, Councilor? Yes, Mr. Vice President.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, thank you so much for the time, effort, and energy that obviously you have spent putting this together. I'm just curious in terms of, if this is an economic development task force, if you will, and we're really looking at business development, do you also coordinate with other entities, i.e. the state, SCORE, groups like the Small Business Administration, to help, if you will, new companies, new businesses that might want to do business in the town, be able to access other kinds of programs through not only local but also state? Because there's lots of opportunities that exist out there. I'm just curious if that's part of your charge.
Yeah, again, the charge of this task force, I think, was to look broadly at economic development opportunities and barriers and make recommendations to the council for prioritization. So that sort of small, entrepreneurship and workforce development hasn't been a big focus. I think, again, as we sort of look at enhancing services for small businesses, that's I have this idea of sort of creating this continuum of resources almost for small businesses coming in, and I think that they're critical partners in that. We only have so many resources that we can provide, but there are a tremendous number of other organizations who are doing that, whether it's SCORE or E4All or these other sort of business accelerators that come through our community.
Yeah.
But I think broadly, I mean, the sort of spirit of public-private economic development that has come out of this committee is one that'll pave the way for those partnerships.
I'm just hoping that, any possible potential incentive that might be out there that people are aware that they could access relative to a business. And I'm thinking of, for example, being on the TIF committee with some of my other fellow councilors. The TIF applications that we usually get are after the fact. I mean, usually they should be out there to encourage people to start at the beginning to make them want to come to the town, obviously create jobs and opportunities, but yet it usually comes to us when the project's 80% complete. So you say to yourself, why am I giving a TIF when, in essence, they're already committed to the community? So, I think there needs to be more awareness, if you will, from planning and development to any potential business, because you have a pro-business council for the most part, and we want to encourage as much as we possibly can and work with you. So I applaud your efforts, and you have a #1 supporter through me on this particular effort, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councilors, hearing none, I want to thank you for your time and energy, and please thank the rest of the committee members. And Elizabeth, please thank Paul. I know he's an integral part of your operation there as well. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. We'll have those discussions shortly to move them mostly to planning board. Thank you.
Just have a quick question. Is there any public comment about this presentation allowed?
No, I'm afraid
There
not.
isn't.
Public comment is a one shot. Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, when you're available. In your package, you have the Town Manager's report, September 5th, 2019. Good evening.
Good evening. Mark Ells, Town Manager. I will open in response to something during public comment. The development of special events here in the town of Barnstable, we certainly always held special events. If you remember, I spent over a year, brought 2 formal drafts before town council. We embarked on looking at our special events because our businesses came to us and asked us to help them change what they saw occurring on their main street. We try to do this in a sensitive way, a non-competitive way, and a way that our community supports. So Ms. Carey was kind enough to share her petition with me. At no time did I, town manager, go to the licensing committee and tell them anything. I went through the process that I've just described to you publicly and openly, shared it with any and all, shared it here with town council, and proceeded. There are changes from what we initially did. If there's any aspect that is unacceptable, I will certainly review and modify if appropriate. I have had no businesses come to me with a complaint. I think we did about less than 10 events, and we make a nominal administrative fee from the events. Can certainly share that fee structure. It's very simple, $100, something of that. So this isn't something we're making a tremendous amount of money on. I did walk Main Street. I did not visit 74 or 200 restaurants. I did visit several restaurants as well as businesses on Main Street. Some of them were familiar with this. Some of them had no idea what I was asking them about. Most of them shared with me the same concerns that I hear being expressed, meaning we don't want to be in competition with our businesses and certainly put them in a position that would make them less viable. The more common, almost everyone said to me that when you do run these events, please have event parking, because the parking on Main Street is limited and people like to get as close as they possibly can. And so if we have an event and people park on Main Street, that means their customers aren't able to get close and access the business. So I assured all that I've spoken with that we will look at that. And there's many ways technology allows us. People don't think about parking anymore. They look where they want to go, and then they hope that there's a directions and parking thing you can click on, and then your phone tells you how to get there. We can certainly work toward doing something like that and hopefully identify some areas that don't create that impact. So, you know, the other thing that we've done, and we haven't done this in a kind of a statistically correct way to prove about the data that we're collecting. It's generally being asked, but more than 80% of the people who are coming here weren't coming to Main Street. They came for the event. I want to collect more data next season on that. I want to know, I'm talking right now already with Cape Cod Community College to have business interns come down and assist us with marketing. We'll have them out there with tablets, polling people during the events, so we will know how many people came here. And chose us versus a business versus came here because of the event and wouldn't have come otherwise. From there, you have good data to turn into information to make decisions. And if the decision is to modify the way we do the events, okay, because we're trying to benefit everybody. If it isn't, then we'll try to enhance what we're doing and maybe do more of it. I don't know the answer to that yet, but it's certainly what this points out to me is very helpful. And it is, let's gather some data, let's make sure it's correct, and then let's make some more decisions relevant to this. And I assure you I'll do that with you, the community, and I'll do it openly in public, as I did the initial steps. Thank you. Town manager update for the period of August 16th through September 5th. I'm going to actually let Derek Lawson come up in a minute, but I wanted to remind everybody that Hurricane Dorian continues to move toward the South Carolina coast. It moves around, but basically, you know, it's going to come up over the coast. It may make landfall. It may not in North Carolina. Depending on what happens there will depend on, you know, obviously the intensity as it moves north. Very heavy rainfalls and flash flooding is occurring. It'll begin to accelerate on Friday. It's anticipated that it'll be off the coast of Nantucket, 150 miles. We could see 55 to 60 mile an hour winds on Cape Cod. Definitely the outer Cape and Nantucket will most likely see the worst of this. We're probably going to see 2-foot higher tides than normal. You know, high seas, obviously. My next speaker may be able to get into the details of what he's anticipating, as is our harbor master. 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. So just everybody be ready. The leaves aren't really down yet, but you know, be careful. If you don't need to go out during this, it sounds like it's coming in late Friday, out of here probably by noon on Saturday. Try not to have a lot of events going on. I know they canceled the triathlon. I know they canceled the freshman football game. I'm sure there's a few more other things that'll be canceled. Wise to do so. So hold tight. Clean your gutters ahead of time because there might be a little bit of flooding going on. Hopefully by Saturday afternoon, things are back to normal. But keep a close eye on this one. I know our police chief and DPW, harbor master, fire departments are ready to respond to this. Hopefully this one just glances by us and it's not a devastating event for us. We hope it isn't for anybody. At this point, I'll stop my presentation. I will come back up. I'll ask Derek Lawson, our Harbor Master Division Supervisor, to provide you an overview of the Hyannisport Mooring Field Reconfiguration Plan. It was timely because we also had the meeting with the President's Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Development, and it was one of their recommendations. But it just, we have anticipated this, we have been working on this, and Derek will share with you kind of the big picture and then some of the specifics that we've already gone forward with, and then what's next. So, thank you. I'll be back.
Good evening, Derek Lawson, Supervisor of the Harbor Master Division. In follow-up from Director Jenkins' presentation, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how we believe we share the same vision with Director Jenkins. And I'm going to do this showing you through our mooring program. As you'll read here on this slide, Harbor Master renews our moorings on an annual basis, and we strive to provide efficient utilization of our harbors. A lot goes into the annual process: fee collection, inspections, enforcement, just to name a few. In 2018, the town of Barnstable permitted 2,323 moorings. The bulk of the moorings are in Katuitt in the Three Bays area, as well as Hyannis and Hyannisport. Here's an aerial of all the moorings in the town of Barnstable. I really like this image because it really illustrates how much area the Harbor Master covers here. Each one of those little dots is a mooring. And it goes all the way from Barnstable Harbor. In the middle there is Lake Wequaquet, and then Hyannis all the way over into Papaneset, which I could barely fit in. We work closely with our mooring servicers on the placement of these moorings. We try to ensure safety and adequate space for all vessels. Over the last 2 years, in the Hyannis and Hyannisport area, we've been able to gain 15 spots by working with our mooring servicers. Thank you, Lynn. Here we go. This fall, Harbor Master staff is planning a 4-year process in which we plan to realign the mooring field over there. This realignment is supported by our Waterways Committee, and with this realignment, we anticipate gaining 25 to 30 more spots out there or mooring permits. The folks in the yellow would be the first to move out and line up with our mooring services help. And our next step in this plan is to give these folks in this yellow portion an exact GPS location where their mooring will be for the next year. And then we'd move on to the different sections. Also starting next year, this is something that I'm very excited about, is the town is looking to move into some rental transient moorings. Personally, I do a lot of recreational boating. I go to other areas, I rent moorings, and then I go into town. In this program, we're going to have transient rental moorings. One would be here in the Fish Hills area, which is to the entrance to Hyannis Harbor. We would offer dinghy space so folks would be able to shuttle themselves in over to the Gateway Marina area, and then it's just a short walk up into Main Street. This year, this coming off season, Harbor Master staff will be promoting this new transient rental moorings, advertising the space that we already have. We have transient dockage at all of our marinas in the town, and we'll continue to work with Director Jenkins and her team to improve public access to the water. And lastly, I would just like to highlight some of the 2019 stats. This year, we moved 54 folks off the waiting list and granted them mooring permits. Processed 152 changes of vessels, and change of vessel requests, and processed 1,251 mooring waitlist, and sold 428 small vessel storage decals. Take any questions if anyone has any.
Councilors, yes, I'll start from this side. Councilor Snep?
President, thank you, Derek. Could you define transient in terms of how much time we're talking about?
Sure. Our plan is to have folks come up, sign up for these moorings for a period of 7 days, and that would be the max. Folks, when they're traveling around, they like to go in, tie up. Personally, I like to go to Edgartown, and would be a max of 7 days, and we're looking at $40 a night per night.
And they could sign up at the Harbor Master facility?
Yeah, we plan on doing that either online, giving us a call, or signing up at our Bismore Park Harbor Master office.
Okay. And could you explain the dinghies? Are the dinghies going to be on the mooring, or how does one actually?
Usually folks in larger vessels, they travel with their own smaller
Okay.
dinghies. And what they would do is they just take their own dinghy and tie up.
And then you'd have space on the beach to allow for the storage?
On the bulkhead over by the Gateway Marina.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Rappacetti?
Thank you. Hi, Derek. How many people are on the wait list in Hyannisport right now?
In Hyannisport right now, 188.
188. So you're looking to make a small dent in that. How many total on the wait list throughout the town?
Throughout the town, I believe there's right around 1,000.
1,000, wow. And transient moorings, are you looking to have it in all areas? Are you looking to have some in Katuitt?
We do plan on having one in Katuitt.
One.
This is a pilot program. We're trying to make, a splash a little bit here. And in various locations, one in Fish Hills, there's going to be one in the Hyannis, Lewis Bay area, there's going to be one in Katuitt. And basically what we're doing is we're turning our moorings that the Harbor Master uses into these rental moorings.
What about the moorings that are held by Oyster Harbor Marine that they rent out? Are they allocated so many a year, or how does that work?
They have a certain amount, and they have the ability, as well as Crosby, to run these rental programs through their business themselves, which is separate from the Harbor Master.
So they're a commercial entity in the Katuitt mooring field anyway that I know of, but let's see. Well, I guess that's it. I'll be attending the next Waterways Committee because of the commercial moorings in Little River area. So
we'll see you there.
I'll see you then. Thanks.
Councilors, all set? Councilors, yes, Councilor Collin?
This is a weird question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Sure. So is there a mechanism by which we review the mooring and the attendance at the mooring every year? Is there a possibility, for instance, that somebody doesn't have a boat anymore and they just don't update their information with you? Or is there a way to ask people, are you planning on using your mooring this year? And if not, can we refund your fee, save your place, and give it to somebody else for the season? Just wondering.
It's a good question. We do have a mechanism in place to ensure that folks do have a boat. Every year they're required to submit certain paperwork, and within that paperwork they have to give us a current registration to a boat. Unfortunately, when you see the vast amount of space that we cover, we're not at every mooring every day. We don't see every mooring every day. I know in other locations where there's a smaller harbor masters can get out there and count to ensure that they're there for 30 days or they don't get their permit. It's a little bit difficult for us to get out there and ensure that they're out there for, have a time limit for their moorings. But we do make sure that they have a current boat and it is registered.
Just to follow up, if I could.
Certainly.
I'm just wondering if maybe regulatory could help you out with the monitoring of that, because if somebody is renting and just submitting the paperwork to you every year but not using it, it could really alleviate the backlog of 1,000 people. I mean, I don't know how popular that is or whatever, but I'm just saying, I just think since we're desperate for people, we're desperate for moorings for people, right? So maybe, I don't know if regulatory could help you with that, or if it's something that only the harbor master can handle, but just a thought.
Thank you.
Council Vice President?
No, I'm all set.
Thank you. Anyone else? Derek, I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Certainly, sir.
In some of the other towns around us, it's not unusual that they have one standard for someone who's kind of what they call a day tripper, and another standard and set of rules for someone who is an overnighter. How do you ensure that your new pilot program is going to be attractive to both? What will be your intent, and who is your target on this pilot program?
I think our target, our folks are looking to get into Hyannis. I know folks. I previously worked at the Hyannis Yacht Club, and I know folks want to come and travel to Hyannis. I think this first year, I think it's more about getting the word out that it is here. People can come to Hyannis. And I think this program, if successful this first year, will continue to grow. I think we're going to gauge how it goes this year, and I take it from there.
Like a hotel room, do you get 2 turns on the mooring? So, for instance, if you allow someone to stay overnight, would they be off by 10 so we could pick up a day trip or 2, if that's all possible? You're not going to have a whole bunch of moorings, obviously, at this point.
Correct. I think we're going to put the framework on the time frames as we get a little closer to this next season. That's something that we'll definitely put our arms around.
Terrific. For the What It's Worth department, a number of my friends go out of 3 bays and they hit Oak Bluff easily, and they have a program that seems to be attractive to them because they go back there. And so that might be one to try to use for some kind of modeling for us as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mark Ells, Town Manager. We are proceeding with the tasks in the action budget calendar for FY 2021. As scheduled, I've attached the budget schedule. Town Manager will issue the FY 2021 operating and capital budget instructions next week. We anticipate a joint meeting workshop with the school committee to review the financial condition of the town on November 7th, 2019. And you can find any and all information relevant to our budgets on our town website. On the 1st of September every year, the town's Water Management Act water withdrawal permit requires the town to significantly reduce water withdrawals from the Mary Dunn and Airport wells, basically reducing the summertime maximum flows to a lesser off-season rate. If you're familiar with the area, we have the Hyannis Ponds up in the area of the Mary Dunn wells. And you're also familiar that recently we've put filters on the Mary Dunn wells, and we just approved budget to put additional filters on the Mary Dunn 4 well. The high pumping rates from our filtered well field are essential factors to ensure the compliance with the most recent PFAS advisory levels. Therefore, in coordination with the Department of Massachusetts Environmental Protection, we requested and received authorization to continue pumping said well fields for 6 months. We will continue to work with DEP to provide drinking water that meets all regulatory standards, and we'll keep you advised. So basically, we've got filtered wells out there that typically we have reduced pumping down in the off-season. To do anything different than that, we need regulatory approval. We've received that regulatory approval for the next 6 months, and we'll be reviewing it and working with DEP to make sure that until we don't need to pump those wells, that we continue to receive authorization to do so. We've received our signed access agreement for the Fish and Wildlife parcel for the installation of test wells on that 250-acre parcel owned by the Commonwealth that directly abuts our Hyannis public water supply. Town plans to conduct tests in late September, early October. That's really the update to this one. We're either going to do the last week of September or first week of October is when we're planning at this point. On this and other parcels, to determine if new public water supply wells are feasible on the various sites, the town shall continue to work with Fish and Wildlife, Barnstable County, and our water districts as we evaluate sites for future potential public water supply well sites. We'll keep you advised as we progress. Town of Barnstable is hosting a training session for the Census 2020 Complete Count Committee for Cape Cod on Wednesday, September 11th from 11 a.m. to 12:30. Barnstable County, Jack Units and I are the co-chairs of that committee. The training will help oversee the efforts to ensure everyone on Cape Cod is counted in 2020. A complete count is essential to the region's long-term planning. Federal funding and regional competitiveness for healthcare, housing, transportation, infrastructure, and service programs rely on this data to help define and fund our community needs. The training will provide an overview of the census process, methods for communicating and sharing information, and ways to promote participation. Town Clerk Ann Quirk and Community Services Director Lynn Poyant will be taking part in the training. This is a reminder, the Mass Department of Transportation has intersection improvements scheduled to commence today and will continue through April 2021. The work is scheduled to occur weekdays from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It is our understanding that the major in-road construction activities will occur during the evening hours of 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. We've specifically requested that because this could create significant problems along that corridor. And Director Santos is working with Mass DOT to try to ensure that when possible, that occurs. The planned work includes redesign of the exclusive left-hand turn lanes, improved bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, installation of new traffic signals, improved drainage, mill and resurface the roadway, install curbing, new pavement marking and signs, construction of sidewalks, and ADA compliant ramps. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us. This is a Mass DOT project. Our DPW is in direct and constant communication, so any communication into the town we will try to respond to, and we will work with our communications with Lynn Poyant, our Community Services Director, to make sure that as updates occur, we will share them with all. That concludes my town manager's update. Thank you.
Council's questions. Councilor Levesque.
In regards to that, the project there that you just mentioned, is there going to be like a point person? I know, like you said, it's a Mass DOT project, and obviously the convenience of having a town project is you have, for example, the Marston's Mills, you can talk to Paul Graves directly and things of that nature. Is there somebody like that, or where communications just go right to the, directly to the DPW?
DPW with the state or DPW us?
Ours.
Communicate with us.
Right, okay.
Communicate with us. Yes, there is a contact, and I don't know that it's in the region.
Sure.
I think it may be in Boston.
Right.
And so we will help to address any and all needs. I'll have Director Santos identify a point person on it, and I'll coordinate with Director Poyant to make sure that the public knows who locally to contact.
Right, exactly. I just got a couple
In the
questions,
past,
right.
we've had that relationship between the DPW and Mass DOT, for example, Route 132,
Right.
and it worked quite well.
Exactly.
So it all depends on communication.
Right,
So,
exactly.
But yes, we will establish that clearly. Obviously, it needed to happen today.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sure we have it, but we will make sure the public knows
Yeah,
that
excellent.
it's there.
Yeah, thank you. And also wanted to compliment you and your staff, Elizabeth, Darcy Carley, and in regards to the Indian Lakes, the waiver this year done on for the alum treatments. The Indian Lakes Committee is very thrilled that that will continue, and obviously that's goes to show that the evaluation process and the fact that again, the search for the best practices, as you've mentioned in the last meetings, that has been successful and is moving forward, and again on a year-to-year basis, so that everybody involved knows what's going on. So I just wanted to compliment you on that, and thank you very much.
Councilors? Councilors? Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mark, just on item number 5, the fact that we actually got approval to look for the new wells, I commend your tenacity in making that happen. That State Department is never really easy to work with, and there were a few times that we began to realize that it was falling apart, if you will. So to bring that to fruition, I applaud you and your staff and the folks to make that happen, because if we can find new wells, as I've always said, water is our #1 priority, not only here in Barnstable, but I believe on Cape Cod. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you.
Council Snip?
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for the report. And I have a question that's off of your report tonight. I had gotten an email regarding RFP for dredging of Dead Neck and Sampson's, and I was just curious, is the Barnstable County Dredge not going to be involved with that dredging project this year?
Would it be okay if I asked Director Santos to come up and
Sure.
address that? Thank you.
Good evening, Dan Santos, Director of Public Works. So the county will be doing the dredge work. This is for a contractor that does the placement on the beach. So we had that last year, and so it's a two-party arrangement. And so that dredging is anticipated to start around October 15th.
Councilors? Hearing none, all set with Mark's report. Thank you very much, Mr. Town Manager. Excellent job. I would look for action on the minutes, if I may, from the Vice President.
Yes, I move that we act on the minutes of the Town Council meeting on August 15th, 2019, as written.
I have a first and a second, and I'd throw it to our clerk for a vote.
Why me? Okay. Let's see, Crocker?
You can just
You're
ask
asking
the
me for a
yeas
vote?
and the nays
Oh,
would be
I'm
fine on
sorry.
this one. That's fine.
Yes, okay, so
Please do.
all those in favor of,
Aye.
Aye.
any abstentions? Okay,
Any nays?
any nays?
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Good.
Our council rules state that we're supposed to send things down to the end for votes. So even though our council rules don't exactly gel with our enabling act, we're going to take the council rules at this point. We are on to communications for elected officers, boards, committees, staff, commission reports, correspondence, and announcements. Councilors.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to announce that the Marston's Mills 30th Annual Village Day is this coming Sunday, September 8th, and it is going to be from 12 to 3 p.m. And then afterwards, there's the annual chicken barbecue at Liberty Hall. And if you haven't been to the Marston's Mills Village since the construction, most of the a good portion, I should say, of the construction has been completed, new sidewalks, rock walls, plantings, lighting. If you haven't had an opportunity to walk the village, it is quite a scene, and it is beautiful that the work that's been done, and it's going to continue to be, work is continually, it's going to begin again, I should say, and here this week. And so it's an opportunity to not only see that, but also take part in all the vendors that'll be there. There'll be a hot dog and hamburger lunch from 12 to 2 p.m., and there'll also be music by the Mike Dumas Band, they came last year, and by popular demand, they have been requested to come back, and they have agreed to come back and play for us. And there'll, again, be all sorts of vendors, informational I think the health department's going to be there, answer questions in regards to the cyanobacteria issues in the ponds and other questions. And police will be there doing a SWAT demonstration, fire department with the trucks, and lots of fun to be had. And the rain will be gone by then, and I'm told it's going to be a sunny day as of now, so please come out and support that, and again, the annual barbecue lunch after that. Also wanted to mention that coming up October 5th here in the town of Barnstable, centralizing in the villages of Hyannis and Centerville, will be the HAC, the HAC Big Fix, annual Big Fix, and it's taking place in the town of Barnstable this year. I did participate last year when I was in Harwich, and I'm excited to say that I will be involved again this year in a project. And if you are looking to volunteer, right now the registration has been closed. Again, you can contact HAC and ask them if there is opportunity. I'm sure they probably may have holes to fill, but I think more importantly, the opportunity isn't just on October 5th to do certain things in our community to help housing and to help improve housing, not only for the Housing Authority Corp, but through planning and development, other things, and there will be overflow projects, which I'm told will be available for people to help. So if you have a church group, Rotary group, networking group, things like that you want to do a community outreach program, there are opportunities to do that. And so if you'd like to contact HAC and get it put on that list for maybe an overflow project, please do so. Again, there are needs in the town of Barnstable, and again, they have only a certain amount of things they can do in one day. So they have over 400 volunteers that have already volunteered for that day, but it's not too late to contact them and again, get involved where you can, because again, there is a need, and they definitely can use the help. Thank you.
Councilor Cullum?
Yes, thank you. Well, the HYCC is celebrating its 10th birthday. It's happening this Saturday, September 14th. It looks like there's a lot of indoor and outdoor stuff here, so if the weather is inclement, at least for the first part of it, there's always something to do inside. Everything from Miss Laurie's creative play for the little ones at 10 o'clock to a volleyball clinic and public skating and open gym. It's all free, and families are more than welcome to come by and see what the town has to offer. There's also a basketball clinic from 1 to 1:45 p.m., and I'm pretty sure it's on their webpage if you want to check it out. Thank you.
Councilors? Yes, Councilor Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was honored that I was able to attend yesterday the kickoff of the Barnstable High School's NIFTY, and the initials are going to throw me off here, but in any event, it's something like the Network for Entrepreneurial Training, and I couldn't help but think of what we talked about earlier, economic development. And what the school is recognizing is that there are many students with great ideas, and we're finding out throughout the country and throughout the world, very young people are coming up with solutions to get plastic out of the ocean, or to provide goods and services for people. So there are challenges that we have in our world today that need these young minds with great ideas that can help us to solve problems that will address and increase the quality of life for all of us. So through grants from the Barnstable Charitable Foundation, as well as the Hyannis Chamber of Commerce, this funding has come together, and our high school will start in January with a teacher that will work with our students who want to participate, 75 students altogether they can accommodate, that will help them with some real answers to their questions about how do you become an entrepreneur, how do you put all that together, and what all that means, and some business skills and development skills and sharpening their ideas. So I know the superintendent is going to be speaking a little later, but it was terrific to be there, to see the energy in the room. It's a great program, and really look forward to seeing that develop in our community. So, great.
Thank you very much. Councilors? Hearing no further, I would move to orders of the day. Ask your permission to take one unit out of order. That would be 2020-017. And I'd ask Councilor Hebert to read that in for me. It's on page 10.
My pleasure. Thank you. This is new business. This is a public hearing. Roll call majority. This is item number 2020-017, appropriation order in the amount of $203,117 for the fiscal year 2020 Barnstable Public Schools operating budget.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor of heading into a public hearing for 2020-17, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we're fortunate again for the second time to have Dr. Meg Mayo Brown with us tonight, but we've had the rationale, but she is here available to answer any questions should anybody like it to be revisited. We asked that that happen unusually in our first because they had school season in front of them, if you all recall the meeting. So we have the superintendent with us. If anybody, well, actually, if you'd like to say what's comfortable, then I'll ask for public comment.
Good evening, and thank you again for the opportunity to be before you to request supplemental funding out of the additional Chapter 70 state aid for education that came to the town. When I was here 2 weeks ago, I described that we were requesting the funding for 3 positions. 2 of those positions were for school counselors at Barnstable Intermediate School and Barnstable United School, where the current student to counselor ratio is 400 students to 1. And then the third position is for a technology facilitator, to support our infrastructure for all of our technology needs. Thank you.
Thank you for that rationale. This is a public meeting. Would anyone like to be heard and speak on the issue? Hearing none, seeing none, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing portion. I have a first and a second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing portion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Counselors, any questions? We have the superintendent with us. We had a great explanation last round. Yes, Counselor Schnapp.
Thank you. So I'm used to the school days where you had guidance counselors, and we didn't have school counselors that I think have a totally different job description. Could you tell me how it works in the schools with the school counselors? Are they meeting kids on an as-needed basis, or do they set up appointment schedules with certain ones?
Sure. I think to some extent the traditional model of a guidance counselor that you refer to, some of the school counselors at the high school and at the intermediate school, some of their work involves that. Largely, though, what we ask of our school counselors is first to deliver a universal social emotional learning curriculum, or to support teachers in delivering that type of curriculum. And then second, for students who need additional support or counseling, or there's just a range of services that can be provided. We call those Tier 2 services. So Tier 1 is something for all students, and that's the universal curriculum that I described. And then Tier 2 services are for students that may need small group support, one-on-one support. So those, sometimes it's, those services are identified in an individual educational plan and IEP, but again, arranged so the school counselors work to see students as needed. And some it's very intensive support, some it's short-term support, sometimes it's long-term support. Again, it's dependent upon the student's need. But when you have a caseload of 400 students to 1, what our counselors are telling us, and certainly that's reinforced by the program evaluation that was done by UMass, is that it's very difficult to deliver that Tier 2 service to students who need it.
So what you're saying is that there's one counselor, there aren't any guidance counselors in addition to this counselor?
No, we don't sort of categorize our counselors into guidance or school counselors. They're all school counselors. Okay. Some the high school in particular, has 2 school adjustment counselors, which again provides that very specific intensive service for students.
Okay, all right. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to commend you for the decision to change your curriculum at the high school and dropping the college prep 1. Is that?
That's correct. Yes, we
so
eliminated
I thought that was a bold move to help diversify the curriculum for the entire student body.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, move it to our clerk to take the roll call vote, and we're looking for a majority, please.
Counselors Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Rapcrissetti.
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Schnepp,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you for your
Congratulations.
support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Back to the articles of the day. Councilor Hebert, would you give me one more, please? And that would be 2020-12. 2020-12. Page 4-5, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 2020-012, appropriation transfer order for $30,000 for the outboard engine replacement on the Harbor Masters Patrol boat. This is old business, public hearing, roll call, majority.
I have a first and a second to open the public hearing process for 2020-12. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none for the rationale, we'll see our Assistant Harbor Master.
Good evening again. Derek Lawson, Supervisor of the Harbor Master Division. Unfortunately, right after July 4th, our Southside Patrol boat had some major engine problems and has been out of commission since. We're looking for the funding, requesting the funding to replace that engine.
Thank you very much. We're in a public hearing process. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this issue? Hearing none, I take a motion and a second to close the public hearing portion. I hear a first, second, please. Second. I got a first and a second to close the public hearing process. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? Hearing none. Any questions, councilors? Pretty straightforward deal. Hearing none, I throw it to the clerk for the roll call vote.
Counselors.
Excuse me, it's just a regular vote. It's a majority vote.
Counselors Cullum. Yes. Flores.
Yes.
Rapcrissetti.
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Schnepp,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Thank you very much. Please record it as such. Thank you, Derek. I would come down the line. Councilor Schnepp, please help me with 2020-13, page 6.
It's a matter of old business requiring a public hearing and a roll call majority. Item number 2020-013, appropriation order in the amount of $136,055, community preservation funds for historic preservation and restoration of annual town report volumes years 1868 to 1994.
I have a first and a second to open the public hearing process for 2020-13. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? Hearing none, I would go for the rationale from Lindsay Council, the Chair of the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Council
evening,
President
Lindsay.
Crocker. At the July 15th, 2019 Community Preservation Committee meeting, the members present voted unanimously for recommendation to the Town Council through the Town Manager, the Property and Risk Management Department's request for $136,055 in historic preservation funds for the de-acidification, preservation via encapsulation in Mylar, and binding of annual report volumes beginning with the year 1868 through 1994. Incidental to preservation of the original documents, annual report volumes for years 1868 through 2016 will be scanned and digitized with optical character recognition software while the books are unbound. And missing volumes for the years 1870, 1874, and 1880 will be provided from the Massachusetts State Library electronically. I believe you were going to speak to this one?
Further
Councilors.
explanation? Yes.
As you know, we're always being asked to do some kind of research in our office. And a majority of the time, if it goes beyond the 90s backwards, there isn't anything electronically. So I do spend quite a bit of time looking through all the old town reports because the information is there. At least it gives me a starting point. So I know where to look for some of the items that come across our desks. As far as I'm concerned, this is a no-brainer. We need this because it takes hours and hours and hours of just sitting and reading annual town reports to try and find the information that either a constituent is looking for or someone within the town needs because of deeds or other things that have happened over the years. So, for my part, this is a wonderful project.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're in a public hearing process. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this article? What's that? Please come forward.
My question was already answered, so I don't have to speak.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? Hearing none, I take a motion to close the public process portion. Second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing on 2020-13, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Councilors, any questions of our clerk or our CPC? Yes, we'll start on the end. Councilor Snip.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ann, will these be completely searchable so that, you know, you can have a little Google window and ask it anything?
These will be on Laserfiche, and they will be completely searchable. That's what the OCR is all about.
Okay. And I'm assuming it only goes up to 94 because those rest of them have been digitized already?
Some of them have been, not all of them, but some of them have been, but that's an easier thing for us to do if we have the opportunity than going back. David Anthony has a couple of the books, if he could just hold them up so you can see how they are, the condition they're in. They're falling apart. So those are the most important right now.
Okay. And how long do you anticipate this project to take?
The good thing with the people that we're working with is if something comes up, whether or not they're doing some of my old books on births, deaths, marriages, those things, if we call them, they'll find the information for us and they will send it down to us via a PDF. So it doesn't, honestly, it doesn't matter. They will help us, however long it takes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Rapcorsetti.
Thank you. As a genealogy buff, this is exciting. What happened to 1870, 74, and 80?
Well, I wasn't around then.
Oh, no. I can kind of imagine.
We have had things borrowed from, we no longer allow borrowing from the town clerk's office because things have been borrowed over the years and they never came back. So that doesn't happen anymore.
So how far back do our annual reports go?
The 1800s. I'm not sure exactly what date off the top of my head. David, do you have that?
That's okay. Sorry. I know some of the things have been lost, but I think this is great. Certainly will support this. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Councilor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. What's to become of the original documents after they're put onto the laser fiche?
I have to have a library of bound books of all the annual town reports. So they will be bound. They will be in my office.
Thank you.
Yes, Vice President.
Thank you. Just a quick question, Ann. You mentioned Fiche. These aren't going to just be available on old Fiche readers. These will be available vis-a-vis on any computer and open to the public at any given moment?
These are on Laserfiche. These will be on Laserfiche. Eventually, when we have a computer that sits on the counter, that's our intent in the town clerk's office, to literally have it sitting on the counter so anyone can look in our Laserfiche under the town clerk's office and see this. It will be open to it'll be open to the town initially and then to the public.
So eventually I can be sitting home in my home office and I can access these records?
I'm not sure how that works. I'd have to have an IT specialist help me out here with that because
Because it should be a very easy searchable database, putting in keywords to be able to pop up on the screen what occurs as you would get in a library. I would hope that would be the end analysis.
I think in the big picture of things, John, that is the intent, but we're still in baby steps right now.
Given we're in baby steps, but if we don't plan for that as the end product.
Oh,
then
it is
what we
planned
do
that
at the
way.
beginning doesn't matter.
It is planned that way, but
Okay.
for instance, some of the information on the town clerk's portion of Laserfish may not all be public record. So we have to have a way of keeping the stuff that's not public record safe and then allowing them access to all the rest of it. That's why I say I'm not an IT person.
Okay. We'll talk.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I move it back to the clerk for the vote, please.
Councilors Flores,
Yes.
Rapp Grassetti.
Yes.
Hebert.
Yes.
Levesque.
Yes.
Schnepp.
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Crocker.
Yes.
Cullum.
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Snepp, could I get some help again on 2020-015?
This is a matter of old business requiring a public hearing and a roll call 2/3 vote. Item number 2020-15, appropriation order of $242,000, $822,000 for the rehabilitation and restoration work to the Payne Black House, 2135 Meeting House Way, West Barnstable.
I have a first and a second to go into a public hearing of 2020-15. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition, any abstention? Hearing none. For the rationale, Lindsay Council, Chair of Community Preservation. How are you?
Thank you. Council President Crocker, Lindsay Council, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. At the June 17th, 2019 Community Preservation Committee meeting, the members present voted 5 yes and 2 no for recommendation to the Town Council through the Town Manager, the Department of Public Works request for $177,078 in Community Preservation Historic Funds for needed structural repairs, interior door restoration, ADA bathroom, flooring, interior finishes, and fireplace and chimney work, exterior site work, including grading, seating, and access ramp for the Payne Black House. This funding request represents a total project cost of $242,822, with the balance to be funded through the Capital Improvement Plan. With me tonight is Town Architect Mark Marinaccio to go over the project.
Could I ask you to wait one moment, if I may? I would ask if there is any public that wants to be heard on this. Hearing none, I'd make a motion to close the public portion. All those in favor? I got a first and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing portion, please signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. Mark, would you like to enter the podium? And councilors, feel free after his explanation to be recognized and ask questions. Thank you. Welcome tonight.
Thank you, councilors. I'm Mark Marinaccio, Department of Public Works. Turn on switch for this. Did. Okay, great. As Lindsay said, the Department of Public Works applied to CPC for funding of $177,078 to complete rehabilitation work at the Payne Black House. The property was originally purchased, actually was a large grant that was given to Deacon William Crocker, who moved to West Barnstable in 1653. The Crocker family were mainstays of the village and successfully farmed several hundred acres. Generations of the family were involved in social, political, and religious affairs within the village. And in the mid to late 1700s, the Payne family built a one-story, a story and a half, full cape, federal-style period on the building on the property. That's what you see here. having trouble with the clicker. There we go. The building is on the National Register. It contributes to the West Barnstable Historic District as well as the Old Kings Highway Historic District. I think the batteries are going in this. The building documents unique construction of the period. You can see the bottom 3 photos. Those are mortise and pegged connections in the attic of the construction. Thanks, Lynn. In 2014, the Community Preservation Committee hired Hadley Krause Studio to perform an existing condition study of the building and recommend corrective actions. James Hadley recommended the following items be implemented at the Pane Black House: to execute historically correct repairs and replacements to the building envelope to make the building weathertight, replace the roof and correctly flash the chimney, execute mold remediation as recommended by Nauset Environmental Services, implement structural modifications as recommended by Structures North, dehumidify the building, and replace the electrical panel. In 2015, in FY15, funding in the amount of $240,000 was sought and obtained to complete the exterior and mechanical front-end upgrades to the building. The funding breakdown was $104,700 from CPC and $135,300 CIP, Community Improvement Plan funds. And that list below is how those funds were expended. The first step was to go into the house and do mold remediation before we could bring any workers in there to do any renovation work. There was extensive black mold in the basement, on the beams, and this is the ceiling in the kitchen and in the living room. We then moved to the exterior and utilized the Sheriff's Department workers to reside and retrim the building. We hired a mason to reconstruct the exterior chimney that was crumbling, and we removed the old, non-original heating chimney off the kitchen. And then we put a red cedar roof on the building, which would match the period that the building was built. And of course, we upgraded the utilities. In order to do anything to the building and get a building permit, the health department wanted us to get rid of the non-Title V cesspool system and install a septic system, which we did. Go next slide. We removed the oil tanks off the outside of the building and installed a gas line and gas-fired furnace and boiler. And then we hired a company, produced drawings, hired a company to rehabilitate the existing windows. And what you see on the left there is any rot was cut out and it was consolidated with epoxy. Window sashes were removed and repaired. Original glass was kept and reinstalled, and the windows were painted. And then we moved to the inside. There was major structural issues with the interior of the building. There had been dry rot over the years where you could actually put your hands through some of these beams in the living room. The main carrying beam you see there at the door was about 2.5 inches out of level, and the building was starting to collapse. Next slide. So in the living area, none of it was salvageable. So you can see we ended up having to remove all of the floor framing in that area. There had been a pine floor that had been installed in the 70s. Along with that, you can see that pine trim on the walls there wasn't original to the building. That pine floor was the only thing holding up that floor in the living room. So we had hired a structural engineer. We did structural drawings, and we used fir framing to replace that. We couldn't replace it in the exact identical locations because the floor loading wouldn't meet today's code, so this floor was designed and installed. And of course, mimicking the original pine subfloor that was been installed. That upper right picture right there is the original fireplace. When the wood floor was installed around the 70s, they had actually laid down a extra layer of brick on the hearth that wasn't originally there. Next picture. So remaining work in the building, that's kind of when we ran out of money. We still have to sister some floor joists inside, install subfloor in what used to be the original bedroom, put some additional columns in the basement, and finish installing the concrete topping that we had put down to kind of control moisture in the building. install a new accessible door for the bathroom, and restore the other doors, complete the plumbing and in the bathroom to create an ADA accessible bathroom, complete the interior finishes, restore them, install a wide plank floor and paint, and then restore the fireplace. And exterior site work still to be done is the brick access walk, which we weren't able to complete in the first phase because we had to do emergency structural repairs, ramp, and then do some more grading out front to let some of the rainwater move away from the building. We also, in the first phase, we pointed the exterior of the masonry, and we dealt with some water issues and water infiltration issues into the basement. And so here's some interior work. That upper right corner, Structures and Grounds did some repair work on one of the barns out back, and they found these cast iron fireplace inserts. And we researched it, took a look, and we found that that fireplace insert actually fits, and the shadows in the fireplace match that insert in that original living room. So we're hoping to remove that extra layer of brick and actually reinstall that insert into the original location. You guys can go back one slide. And of course, whenever you work on an old building, you find something interesting. That lower right picture there is some quahog shells that somebody had installed in the floor in the space and left there. I don't know whether it was a carpenter who was mad at the owner, was hoping it would smell up the space for years, or somebody's lunch. I don't know, but you never know what you're going to find. Okay. And so here's the budget for the funding request. CPC funds we use for items that we've cleared with legal regarding what can be funded through CPC, and then of course soft costs and some mechanical equipment would be through the CIP, the capital request. And that's the presentation, so if you have any questions.
Any questions, councilors? Yes, Councilor Rafferty.
So with this appropriation, you're looking at spending close to $500,000 on the house.
Yeah, the total would be $482,822. So it would be appropriated. Based on the square footage of the building, that's about $314 a square foot.
Okay.
Which isn't bad for a rehabilitation of an existing
Is this going out to bid, or are you going to do this work in-house?
Probably the structural work, and a lot of it will be going to bid.
And Lindsay, do we know why there were 2 votes no?
Some folks felt that we had expended enough money on this project and that the town should finish it through the CIP. That was the general gist of the discussion.
Okay. And the final end of this house is to be used for meetings, not dissimilar to meetings held right down the street at the community center. Has there been any discussion with the West Barnstable Historical Society to perhaps locate there or kind of be caretakers there? I just wonder, once it's complete, how often is it going to be used? Who's going to caretake it? How's the heat going to be? Is it going to be kept on? And the uses for the building has me a little concerned that all this work's going to be done. And also, one final question for Mark: is this it? Have you done your final assessments? Is this it on the project?
To answer the first part of your question, it was represented that the manager's office through Property and Risk Management was going to take over the scheduling of this building as well as the Burgess House. They were sort of outliers with no one managing that. So that was what was represented to us, and as how the scheduling would be going forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe we've run into everything we're going to run into on this project. And one of the reasons why the original ask wasn't larger was we actually didn't have in our possession the report from Structures North at the time we made the original request. So once we got into building and saw the condition, that's when we did the emergency repairs.
Yeah, and one final comment.
Certainly.
Burgess House and this might be a question for David Anthony, are those available to rent for events and what's the process for that if someone wanted to hold a wedding there or whatnot?
Good evening, David Anthony, Director of Property and Risk Management. Both of these assets have some unique affiliations that we can tap into as well. The Meeting House Farm group contracts for the bulk of the Conant property and is very interested in assisting the town to help manage this house, the Payne Black House. And certainly the ongoing partnership that we value with the Marston's Mills Village Association and the use of the Burgess House. Initially, that's something that we're forced to tap into as we understand how often those properties will be sought out. Certainly, working with the Marston's Mills Village Association, we're going to understand how often it gets used, what are the types of uses, and we're hoping that that's also going to help us understand who wants to use the Payne Black House. There is a high demand for public meeting space, as seen by the tremendous investment that the Centerville Library did in an addition to meet community demand there. And certainly the Osterville Library is used by its community, and I think all the public libraries. But we also see that flowing into meeting spaces and other public buildings, including the schools, the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. So another venue where smaller groups, and Payne Black is going to be ideally suited for those smaller groups. What it'll do is it will allow more people to take advantage of some of these public meeting spaces. The challenges this first year is to get the word out, to try to understand what the uses are going to be, how to manage those uses, and once we measure that, we'll have a better understanding of how we can bring those forward in the future and what kind of uses we can use.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Council Snap?
I share some of the concerns of the amount of investment that we've put into this property and recognize it does have a lot of historic value. I don't know if the meeting spaces really are large enough to, I mean, just from the pictures that you showed, are we talking maybe a meeting space for 10 people, or is that, what do you anticipate?
So there are three major rooms in there, and a kitchen space that make up the first floor. And of course, with the ADA accessible bathroom facility and the ramp, it allows for a more accessible space. The larger room could certainly accommodate 10, maybe even 20 people in a small speaking environment. It'd be a little snug for that. But the other two rooms could potentially be used for static historical displays on agricultural elements. Certainly farming in West Barnstable was a predominant activity back at the time when the house was built. So there could be opportunities, and this is where that partnership potentially with the Meeting House Farm folks, who entertain an awful lot of students who come to that property to understand about trees and flowers and how farming was done. The thought had been that perhaps one of the rooms could be used as a static display. One of the rooms could be used for a very small meeting group and a bit of a larger group as well. Those things could rotate through. But really what we're trying to do here is take the historical asset that we acquired. We've been forced to fix it up because we own it and because of its status and the preservation needs. But the house itself becomes an educational artifact, much like the U.S. Custom House. The building itself is an artifact. And if we can leverage that in working with historical societies and with local builders who want to talk about the traditional building from 150, 200 years ago, the chimney core itself is just an amazing thing to look at and realize how old it is. Mm-hmm. And for those people who have never seen a chimney or don't understand how one chimney core can heat so many different places in the building, it's a wonderful opportunity to see old engineering at work that still works. So that's really what we're going to try to do, is leverage this in the first year. We may very well find that the community doesn't need this space, but at the end of the first year, we'll come back and we'll try to determine what then the highest and best use of this asset would be, as has been consistent with the charge that the town council has asked us to do in looking at all of our municipal properties.
Well, I'm heartened to hear that you're also considering, the use of Burgess House. The Village Association has taken great care of that property, but I'm not sure it's as accessible to the entire town because of its, a concern about maintaining it. These are sometimes fragile assets, even after you've put this money in to fix them up. So it will be an interesting challenge to see how we can balance, public access to these properties with maintaining the historic value. So.
Yes, Councilor Levesque?
I actually mirror what Councilor Schneppert said as well, and just, I would encourage, obviously, a continued communication with the Marston's Mills Village Association. I don't know what the communication has been at this point in regards to Burgess House. I suspect I'll have emails and maybe a phone message or two tomorrow from people watching this meeting. But again, yes, it's fragile and historic, but also like upstairs is not usable. They use it for storage. The chairs are antique and can be easily damaged if they're played upon or used in a certain way. So again, but I think as the investment goes forth, I know there's CPC money going into continue rehabilitating that property, that maybe there'll be more opportunity as the lack of a better term, the property becomes more sturdy. On the other hand, I would definitely be in favor of this. I think, there's been time and time that we put CPC money forward, we give money to BLT just to buy land, and that's great, free space, all for it. But large amounts of money, in this case, we actually have an asset where we're actually investing money, CPC money, and then we will have an asset that, again, will have historic value, historic preservation. I've seen in Marston's Mills now, there's been property that's been given to, money that's been given to BLT, and I understand that's not their mission to preserve homes, and I don't fault them for that, but at the same time, the home has to be torn down. That does have some historical value. In this case, now we're using money to preserve, so I think that's fantastic. I actually like to see more of that, so thank you.
Councilor Collins?
Yes, I guess, first of all, it's important to note that we're halfway through this. And so let's not throw out the 200 grand we already have invested. And second of all, I see another use for it. I mean, we could easily educate our youth on what Barnstable used to be as a stop for field trips. We could do a tour of Barnstable with the custom house. And, I just think it'd be really important to show the youth what we actually have and how we're protecting the past for their future. Also, I think the idea of weddings and things like that's a fantastic idea for small weddings with, one violinist or whatever, one bagpipe player, I don't know. But there's ways to market the property beyond what we've discussed here, if that in the year after we surmise what's happened, if that seems to be the way we want to move with it. But I'm definitely going to support it because in for a penny, in for a pound. And I don't want to see anything half done. And I think that there's a lot that people could learn from it. So, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Wallace?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As the town councilor where the house is located, we had many public meetings in West Barnstable with the West Barnstable Civic Association. And overwhelmingly, the Civic Association is looking forward to finishing this project. The Board of Directors would like to meet there. The Shellfish Committee has expressed an interest in meeting there. These are a few things that I think haven't been mentioned. It has a museum-quality beehive oven in it, and I don't know how many of those there are actually left anywhere. And so some of the things that Councilor Cullum had mentioned were in the list of 17 uses that the West Barnstable Civic Association came up with for that property. Historical reenactments, cooking with wood, a place to sell local honey, vinegars, and different things like that, a temporary farmer's market. There was an idea to have a regular chamber music sessions there outside of the building in the nice gardens that exist. Many of the trees that are there are extremely rare and they can't be found anywhere else. It's a lovely setting to do that, and it's within walking distance of the 1717 Meeting House, for instance. So there's probably going to be quite an interest to do that as well. There's I suppose, the potential is finite because of the size of it, but I believe that the number of individuals that will be able to place in any one room will finally be determined by the fire chief in the West Barnstable Fire District. He will determine how many people we can fit in it. But the rooms are surprisingly spacious, given that the house was probably built in 1752, and they open up from one room to the next, so it does lend itself nicely for entertaining in there. I think it's a wonderful gem. It'll be just beautiful right on Meeting House Way, and it's just the physical exterior of it being what it is now. It's brightened up the whole village of West Barnstable, and I really hope you'll support this appropriation to finish this project, because this is really, really worth the money and the time and the effort we put into it. So thank you. And thank you, David. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate all your efforts.
Hearing no other questions, I would throw it to the clerk for a vote.
Councilors, Rep Grissetti,
Yes.
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Steinhilber,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good luck with the project. Councilor Rap Grissetti, could you assist me, please, with 2016, or 17, I guess it actually is, on page 10.
We did 17.
17,
This
I'm
is
sorry.
item
I'm on to
2020-018, new business, refer to a public hearing on 9/19/19, appropriation and transfer order of $330,400 for the townwide real estate revaluation update, as written.
All those in favor of referring this out to a public hearing on 9/19, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Thank you. Councilor Rap Grissetti, one more, please.
Under new business, refer to the planning board, item 2020-019, amending the code of the town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240 Zoning, Article 2, Section 9, to remove seasonal restrictions on the erection of tents as temporary accessory structures to existing permanent businesses, as written.
I do not have quorum on my dais at this point, so, I'm sorry? Yes, we can take a 5-minute recess, or something short of that if we can. Thank you. We'll be right back. Councilors, please, to your seats. Councilors, it's my understanding that we're all set with audio, and we will revisit, if I may, 2020-019. From the top.
Under new business, refer to the planning board under item 2020-019, amending the code of the town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240, Zoning, Article 2, Section 9, to remove seasonal restrictions on the erection of tents as temporary accessory structures to existing permanent businesses as written.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor of referring to the planning board, 2020-19, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? That's headed for the planning board. Councilor Wallace, could you give me 2020-20? Mike, please.
Planning Board, I'm sorry, this is new business. We're going to refer this to the Planning Board. It's item number 2020-020. Amending the code of the town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240, Zoning, Article 7, Sign Regulations to eliminate the location hardship requirement for an A-frame signs in Hyannis Village Business District.
Do I have a second? First and second, all those referring 2020-20 to the planning board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Councilor Wallace, one more, please.
Okay, this is new business. We're going to refer this to the Planning Board. It's item number 2020-021. Amending the code of the town of Barnstable, Part 1, General Ordinances, Chapter 240, Zoning, to update and standardize requirements for exterior lighting.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor of referring to the planning board, 2020-21, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Councilor Steinhelber, please assist me with a couple.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under new business, I'd like to refer item 2020-022 to a second reading on September 19th, 2019, acceptance of sewer easement for 100 Merchants Way, Hyannis, Mass, as written.
Second.
I have a first and a second to refer for a second reading on 9/19, 2020-22 as written. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? Hearing none. Councilor Steinhelber, again, please.
This is new business, item 2020-023, acceptance of a grant in the amount of $155,538 from the Coastal Pollutant Remediation Grant Program to design and construct stormwater best management practices, BMPs, for the Three Bays area as written.
Second.
I have a first and a second to put before the council, 2020-23. And we're fortunate, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And we're fortunate to have Dan Santos, Director of the Department of DPW, to give us the rationale.
Thank you. Good evening once again. In 2019, the Barnstable Department of Public Works applied for grant funding in the amount of $155,538 from the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management from the Coastal Pollutant Remediation Program fiscal year 2020 in support of Barnstable Stormwater Best Management Practice programs. This funding will continue to assist Department of Public Works to assess, design, permit, and construct 2 or more top priority stormwater retrofit sites in the Three Bays watershed. This will help improve water quality in the bays, restore habitat for shellfish, fish, and wildlife, and restore the area for designated human uses, including shellfishing, fishing, and swimming. There is no immediate financial impact to the town's operating budget as a result of accepting this grant. There is a reimbursement. This is a reimbursement grant whereby the town will have to expend the project costs up front and submit for reimbursement. I just want to add that since 2016, over the past 4 years, the town has secured just about $900,000 in state and federal grants for the installation of best management practices for stormwater management in the Three Bays watershed, including in Marston's Mills, Cotuit, and Osterville. Thank you.
Councilors, any questions of our director? Yes, Councilor Rapcorsetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dan. Where are these two high-priority places?
Well, we have, there's about 10 projects underway now, and this is just adding to that. So it's not actually specifically going to fund two, it's just adding to the 10 projects that are underway in 2020 and 2019, Cotuit Library, South County Road, Putnam Ave at Little River Crossing, finishing up the Old Shore Road, Ropes Beach, and so there's a number of, and they're going to start that.
I know. I
Yep.
saw the fence up.
Yep.
So, are you continuing to work with APCC?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we go on record saying that any projects with regard to this, if they're near ways to water, that we don't impede our access to water and parking near the ways to water.
Yes, we've been made sensitive to that issue, and we'll continue to keep a close eye on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, this may be voted upon, so I'd ask the clerk to take our vote, please. (2020-23).
Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Yes.
Flores, Rapcorsetti.
Yes.
That's 9 yes.
Councilor Levesque, would you help me please on 2020-24?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is new business referred to a public hearing on 9/19/2019. This is item number 2020-024, supplemental appropriation order in the amount of $15,000 for the fiscal year 2020 Planning and Development Department operating budget as written.
Second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor of sending 2020-24 to a public hearing on 9/19, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Any abstention? Thank you very much. Councilor Levesque, you're doing so fine. Let's roll it on.
Thank you, Mr. President. New business referred to a public hearing on 9/19/2019, item number 2020-025, appropriation and loan order in the amount of $549,000 for the purpose of acquiring real property consisting of approximately 0.32 acres of land, more or less, in the Barnstable shown on Assessor's Map 208 as parcel 048 to be associated with the construction of a new sewer infrastructure as written.
Do I have a first and a second? I do. All those in favor of sending to a public hearing 2020-25 to the public hearing date of 9/19, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any abstention? Terrific. On with Councilor Cullum, please.
Yes, I'd like to refer to a public hearing, item number 2020-026, appropriation and loan order in the amount of $283,900 for the purpose of acquiring real property consisting of approximately 0.65 acres of land, more or less, in Barnstable shown on Assessor's Map 209 as parcel 019 to be associated with the construction of new sewer infrastructure as written.
I have a first and a second to refer 2020-26 to a public hearing date of 9/19. All those in favor, please signify by saying yea. Nay. Ayes, nays, abstentions? Yay. I heard no nays and I heard no abstentions. Thank you very much. We're on. Hey, you're going to have some fun up here, guys. Come on. We got an executive
Really?
session still. Let's go.
Okay, ready?
I would ask Councilor Cullen perhaps help me with the last one, 2020-27.
Item 2020-027, an item that may be acted upon with majority vote, authorizing the town manager to draft and bring forward to the town council special legislation to authorize the town of Barnstable to own, manage, or contract with any public or private entity or both for the management of water and/or wastewater facilities. As written.
Thank you. I would ask the Vice President to offer the substitute motion, please.
Resolved that the town manager, in coordination with the town council president, draft for approval of the town council's special legislation to authorize the town of Barnstable to own, manage, or contract with any public or private entity or both for the management of water and/or wastewater facilities.
Do I have a second, please? I have a first and a second on the substitute motion. We do have the manager with us tonight and would be willing to address any questions on the substitute motion that's before us. Hearing none, I'd throw it to the clerk for a vote.
Councilors Hebert,
Yes.
Levesque,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Steinhilber. Yes. Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Rat Grassetti.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, councilors. We have a advertised request to go into an executive session. And I would ask that the Vice President read the motion so that I may declare the item.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value, or the possible taking by eminent domain of certain roadways in the village of Hyannis, Massachusetts. I move to go into executive section under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Section 6, to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value, or the possible taking by eminent domain of certain roadways in the village of Hyannis, Massachusetts, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town, and not to reconvene in open session.
Do I have a second? Second. As the chair, I do declare this issue to have a detrimental effect on our litigating position, and I would suggest that the executive session is well warranted in this effect. Would you please take a vote and not to reconvene in open session thereafter?
Councilors Levesque,
Yes.
Schnapp,
Yes.
Steinhilber.
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Rat Grassetti.
Yes.
Hebert.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Yes, we have the town attorney.
Good evening, great to see everybody. I drafted that motion, and in listening to it, I realized I made an error. It should be the negotiating position of the town, not the litigating position of the town. So if you wouldn't mind just correcting that for the record, so the record is clear that it's the
Why don't we take a 1-minute recess? So we got something to answer all the questions for the councilors here. 1 moment recess, please. Thank you. We all set upstairs? Counselors, we're back from our recess. As advised by the town attorney, we will revisit this as we had a Scribner's error in the casting. So I would ask the Vice President to read it with the Scribner change that we have in front of us.
Okay, the motion to go into executive session to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value, or the possible taking by eminent domain of certain roadways in the village of Hyannis, Mass. I move to go into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Paragraph 6, to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value, or the possible taking by eminent domain of certain roadways in the village of Hyannis, Massachusetts, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town, and not to reconvene in open session.
Do I have a second? I have a second, and as chair, I am declaring that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on a negotiating position of the town. So I would ask for a roll call vote and not to return into open session.
Counselors Schnapp,
Yes.
Steinhilber. Yes. Wallace,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Cullum. Yes. Flores.
Yes.
Rapgrassetti.
Yes.
Hebert. Yes. Levesque. Yes. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Let me clear the room, and there'll be a 1-minute break if anybody wants to use the facilities. Thank you.